Welcome to this explainer. Look, today I am stepping into the role of your independent financial coach. We are going to tackle what is arguably one of the most stressful, highly debated, and honestly deeply personal decisions in your entire retirement plan. And that is, when exactly should you claim your Social Security benefits? I mean, every financial advisor has an opinion on this, right? Every online forum has a hot take. And frankly, a lot of the standard advice out there is literally leaving massive amounts of your money on the table. So grab a notepad, put your coach's hat on with me, and let's get into the real strategy.
Okay, let's dive into this with a pretty crazy fact. Did you know the Social Security Administration actually used to have a break-even calculator right on their website to help you decide when to file? And then they just completely deleted it. Why? Well, because citizens were systematically misusing it. The government built this tool to help with this massive decision, watched people treat a basic starting point as the final definitive answer, and just said, you know what? Let's just get rid of the whole thing. It perfectly illustrates how complicated this math really is and why a basic calculator is never, ever going to be enough.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to untangle this step by step. We'll cover the Social Security trap, rethink the break-even math, look at health and lifestyle factors, explore spouses, markets, and taxes, run through the Sandra scenario, and finally, build your personal filing playbook. Let's jump right into Section 1, the Social Security trap. Age 62 is the very first year you can file, and about 2/3 of Americans actually do it. But the financial planning industry will aggressively tell you that filing early is a trap and that you absolutely must blindly wait until age 70 to maximize your payout. But as your coach, I'm going to challenge that.
Think of Social Security like a faucet connected to a pipe in the wall. Now that pipe is pressurizing every single year you wait. If you wait until 70, boom, you get maximum pressure. But here is the absolutely crucial point. The faucet is yours. You paid for that water your whole working life. If you wait too long before turning it on, well, some of that water just stays in the pipe. You never drink it, it essentially evaporates, and nobody refunds you the pressure. So the whole debate really is simply, when do you open the faucet?
That brings us to Section 2, rethinking break-even math. We really need to look at the actual numbers behind standard actuarial tables, because just hearing wait until 70 doesn't give you the full picture.
Let's put a face to this math. We'll look at the baseline options for a fictional upper-middle-class earner. Let's call him Professor Pat. Pat made about $90,000 in his final working year. At 62, Pat can collect $2,238 a month. If he waits until his full retirement age of 67, he gets $3,198. And if he delays to 70, he gets maximum pressure, $3,966. Now, the classic break-even analysis tries to figure out which age gives Pat more total dollars by the time he dies. Based on an average life expectancy of 84 for someone who has already reached 62, filing at 62 actually wins over 67 by about $72,000, if we assume zero inflation. But wait, we obviously can't assume zero inflation, right?
Because here is the massive compounding kicker that traditional break-even models completely ignore. $246,000. That's the cost of living adjustment, or COLA. Social Security adjusts for inflation. If your base benefit is larger because you waited to file, well, your COLA increases are also larger. It's exactly like compound interest. When you add realistic COLA assumptions back into the math, delaying to 70 versus filing at 62 isn't just a $70,000 difference. It explodes into an enormous $246,000 gap over a long lifetime. That is a massive sum of money.
But listen, as your coach, I have to tell you the danger of relying purely on that big number. The real problem isn't early versus late, it's life's total uncertainty. If you change the life expectancy assumption by just 3 years, say dropping it from 84 to 81, suddenly filing at full retirement age is the better play. Drop it 6 years to 78, and filing at 62 versus 67 is basically a tie. You just don't know when you are going to pass away. A rigid calculator simply cannot account for that reality. Let's move to Section 3 and shift away from strict math to the human element. There are 7 legitimate reasons to file early, and we're starting with the first 2.
There is substantial evidence that retirement spending follows a really predictable curve. You have your go-go years early on where spending and activity are super high, then the slow-go years in the middle, and finally the no-go years at the end where spending and mobility are very low. The money you have at 63 has much, much higher utility than the exact same dollars at 79, simply because your physical ability to enjoy it changes dramatically.
So, here are the first 2 plays in our playbook. Reason 1. If your personal health is genuinely bad, or you have a terrible family health history, open the faucet now. If your pipe is leaking, waiting for a higher monthly payment doesn't help if you aren't alive to actually collect it. Reason 2. You want to maximize your early physical capability. Delaying gratification until you are 72, only to spend your time at medical appointments instead of traveling, that isn't a math problem, it's a timing problem. Opening the faucet early to fund those go-go years makes highly defensible, rational sense.
Now we're getting to the really strategic part. Section 4. Spouses, markets, and taxes. We are moving beyond just you to see how external forces impact your entire household.
The family playbook brings us to reasons 3 and 4. Reason 3 is a massive coordination play. If your spouse stayed home or had lower earnings, they might be eligible for spousal benefits up to 50% of your full retirement amount. But get this, they cannot access a dime of that until you file. Analyzing your own benefit in total isolation literally leaves their money on the table. Reason 4 is counterintuitive but incredibly powerful. If the higher-earning spouse has a serious health diagnosis, the lower earner can file early, collect their own smaller benefit while the ailing spouse is alive, and then, here's the trick, double dip by switching to the larger survivor benefit when their partner passes.
Next up, the market and tax plays. Reason 5, the stock market crashes. If you're retiring and the market drops 40%, selling your assets at a massive loss is brutal. Turning on Social Security early creates a guaranteed income floor so your portfolio has time to recover. Reason 6 is what we call the tax torpedo. After age 73, you are forced to take required minimum distributions, or RMDs, from retirement accounts, which severely spikes your taxable income. Filing early can allow you to collect years of Social Security in a much lower tax bracket before that RMD flood hits. And finally, reason 7, you simply need the money. Businesses fail, medical bills happen. Using the safety net is not a failure. It is the exact purpose of the system.
Okay, let's ground all these complex strategies in a real-world scenario. Section 5, the Sandra scenario. Let's see exactly how this plays out for a household facing a tough medical reality.
Sandra's 62. She's married to a 65-year-old husband who has a serious heart condition and a much higher Social Security benefit. Step 1. Sandra logically files for her own $2,100 benefit at age 62. Step 2. She collects this money for 7 years while her husband is still alive. Step 3. When he sadly passes away when she's 69, she simply switches over to his larger $3,600 survivor benefit. This is that double dip strategy in action.
The crucial point here comes down to a massive number, $176,000. If Sandra had followed generic industry advice and waited until 67 to file for her own benefit, she would have collected exactly zero of her own money for those first few years and still ended up on his survivor benefit anyway. By opening the faucet at 62, she captured $176,000 that she would have completely forfeited otherwise. The faucet was there, she just had to be smart enough to turn it on.
And now we bring it home. Section 6, your filing playbook. We've talked theory, we've talked examples, but as your coach, I want to leave you with actionable steps.
Here is your action plan. First, test your own break-even math, but please do not assume you'll live to a perfect 84. Shift that expectancy plus or minus 3 to 6 years just to see how thin your margin of error actually is. Second, never analyze in isolation. Always model your combined household, spousal, and survivor benefits together. Third, do not carve your plan in stone. Reassess your timeline if a market downturn hits or a health crisis emerges. And hey, a quick warning from your coach here. Financial advisors often have a structural incentive to tell you to delay, because if you delay Social Security, you spend more of your own portfolio early on, which means their fee base stays larger for longer. Just be aware of the game you're playing.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material because it perfectly sums up our entire coaching session today. This isn't a generic optimization problem. It's a personal financial decision with hundreds of variables. There is no single right answer for everyone. That starting point calculator was never meant to be the final word for your unique life.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Look at your own life, your health, your spouse, your portfolio. Which of those 7 conditions applies to your life right now? Take charge of your retirement, run the numbers for your unique situation, and do not be afraid to open the faucet when it makes sense for you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.